I will never forget the day when a man who believed in nothing started to cry in front of an image he had tattooed on himself. It was not a common emotion. It was not exhaustion. It was something that happened while he was working on the eyes of the Virgin Mary, and he realized that those eyes were different, too different to be just ink. 18 years of career, thousands of tattoos done, and one rule that had never been broken: no religious images. He always politely declined. He said it was not his specialty, that other professionals would do better, and no one questioned it. His name was Michael Reynolds, one of the most respected, hyper-realistic tattoo artists in his city. Those who sought him knew they would have to wait months just for a first conversation. The studio was on the third floor of an old building, quiet, organized, lit just right. A place where everything seemed controlled, every bottle in its place, every line thought out before it existed. Michael believed that control was everything. Before I continue, write in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there now. This testimony has reached people in places I never imagined, and I want to know if it has reached you. Also, please like and subscribe here to the channel. Together, let's become a great community of faith and love for Jesus and the Virgin Mary. Now let me continue from where I left off. Michael didn't speak much during the sessions, not out of coldness, but out of focus. The machine was running, the constant sound, the attentive gaze. He worked in silence while clients entrusted their bodies to his hands. Faces, fathers, mothers, children, people who had already passed away. He knew how to transform memory into a living image on the skin. His wife, Laura, attended church. Michael did not. They never argued about it. He respected it. She understood. On special occasions, they celebrated family. Faith stayed out of the conversation. When someone said, "God bless you," he merely nodded. It was not irony. It was distance. On that October Tuesday, everything seemed the same. Michael arrived early, prepared the inks, reviewed the drawing of the day. At 10 o'clock sharp, the client arrived. Her name was Anna Whitmore. She didn't just bring a request. She brought a story, a reason, a specific look that she wanted to immortalize on her own skin. When Anna said she wanted to tattoo the Virgin Mary, Michael felt the immediate impulse to refuse, but he didn't refuse. He couldn't explain why. He just accepted, and at that moment, without realizing it, he was about to break the only rule he had kept intact for almost 2 decades. Michael asked Anna to explain again what she wanted while he organized the materials. He already knew the technical request, but not the full story. Before lying down on the table, she took a deep breath and began to speak. 3 years ago, her son, Benjamin, was born with a serious heart condition. In those early days of life, the doctors made it clear that the situation was delicate. Surgeries would be necessary. Constant monitoring would be required. And even so, there were no guarantees. Anna shared that she heard words no mother is prepared to hear. They told her she needed to prepare for the worst. She said she left the hospital feeling the ground disappear beneath her. It was during that time that she remembered her own mother, a simple woman devoted to the Virgin Mary who prayed every day in front of a small image kept in her room. After her mother's death, Anna had distanced herself from faith. She put the image in a box and went on with her life. When Benjamin got sick, she opened that box. She didn't know how to pray properly. She couldn't remember the words. But every night, before sleeping, she looked at that image and spoke. She asked. She cried. She begged. She made no promises. She only asked for her son to live. She said she did this for months, in silence, without telling anyone. Michael listened to everything without interrupting. While preparing the inks, he realized that Anna was not recounting it like someone reporting a distant fact, but like someone reliving each stage. She explained that after she began to pray every night in front of the image of the Virgin Mary that had belonged to her mother, nothing changed in her son's medical routine. Benjamin continued to be taken to the doctors regularly. Appointments, tests, constant follow-ups. Anna said she never stopped doing anything the doctors recommended. Faith did not replace care. It walked alongside it. It was during these follow-ups that something began to catch attention. The tests started to show small improvements. At first, they were subtle, nothing that justified celebration. The doctors advised caution. The treatment remained the same. There were no new procedures. Still, with each new evaluation, the results advanced a little more. Over time, these improvements stopped being sporadic. They became consistent. Until one of the consultations, the doctor called Anna in for a more serious conversation. He held the tests in his hands and seemed to be searching for words. He said nothing had changed in the treatment, that there was no clear explanation for that evolution. Benjamin's heart was functioning normally, without sequelae, without limitations. Anna paused when recounting this. Her eyes filled with tears. She said that for almost 2 years she continued praying every night in front of that image, while also strictly following every medical guideline. She never knew how the two things came together. She only knew when everything began. That was why she decided to carry that face with her forever. Not as a replacement for medicine, but as a living memory of a time when she did everything she could as a mother, and received something she could not explain. Michael merely nodded. He didn't question it. But something inside him had been profoundly touched. Before starting, Michael did what he always did. He created the drawing, adjusted proportions, analyzed references. Anna showed several images of the Virgin Mary and pointed out one in particular. She said that look seemed to follow those who prayed. Michael observed closely. Deep, serene eyes, difficult to define. He affirmed that he could reproduce it. Technically, it was just another pair of eyes, but at that moment, he still did not know how wrong he was. Michael began the drawing as he always did. The initial stroke flowed naturally. Correct proportions, precise framing, balance between shadow and light. Everything seemed normal until he reached the eyes. Something got stuck. He drew, observed, and erased. Tried again. Adjusted the shape, the tilt, the depth. Nothing seemed right. This was not common. Eyes had always been his specialty. Still, after long minutes of insisting, he accepted a result he considered merely sufficient. Anna approved the drawing without hesitation. She said it was perfect. Michael did not mention the discomfort he felt. He transferred the drawing to the skin, positioned it correctly, and began the work. The machine was turned on, and the familiar sound filled the studio. The first hours passed without incident. Firm outlines, initial shadows, a base built with care. Anna remained silent, enduring the pain. Michael worked focused, automatically, as he had done thousands of times before. It was when he returned to the eyes that everything changed. As he adjusted the more delicate layers, Michael felt a different scent in the air. At first, it was almost imperceptible, a soft, sweet aroma. He ignored it. He continued working, but the scent intensified. Roses. He stopped and looked around. There were no flowers in the studio. There never were. He asked Anna if she was wearing any perfume. She replied no. He decided not to insist and resumed his work, although the aroma remained. Shortly after, he felt warmth in his hands. It wasn't physical exertion. It wasn't the position. It was a deep, strange warmth, as if it came from within. He flexed his fingers, opened and closed his hands. Nothing changed. Anna noticed the pause and asked if everything was okay. Michael replied yes, even though he knew something was not. The work progressed. One eye was almost finished. Tiny details, reflections of light, subtle shadows that brought life to the expression. The scent was still there. The heat, too. When he started on the second eye, Michael felt it hard to maintain his concentration. Not from fatigue, but from restlessness. He finished the last strokes, cleaned the area, and stepped back to observe. It was at that moment that he realized the eyes were different. Technically correct, yes, but there was something more, a depth that shouldn't exist, a presence. Michael blinked, leaned in closer, then stepped back. The gaze of the image seemed fixed on him. His heart raced. His hands began to tremble. He turned off the machine and stood still, staring at what he couldn't explain. For a brief second, Michael saw movement, a subtle blink, an impossible detail. Tattoos don't move. Drawn eyes don't blink. But he saw it. And in that heavy silence, not understanding what was happening, Tears began to roll down his face without him knowing why. Michael stood still for a few moments, trying to comprehend what had just happened. The machine turned off, still in his hand. The studio in absolute silence. Anna remained with her eyes closed, unaware of anything. Tears streamed down his face uncontrollably. They were neither tears of sadness nor joy. They just came. He quickly wiped his face, took a deep breath, and tried to compose himself. The scent began to fade gradually. The warmth in his hands diminished. The eyes of the image no longer seemed different. Still, Michael knew something had happened. He finished the work on autopilot. Final adjustments, cleaning, covering the tattoo. Each gesture was mechanical. Inside he felt distant, confused, shaken. When he said he was done, his voice came out weak. Anna got up carefully, feeling the pain in her side. Michael took the mirror and positioned it in front of her. The moment Anna saw the tattoo, she brought her hand to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. She remained silent for long seconds. "It's her," she finally said. "It's exactly how I saw her when I prayed." She pointed to the eyes. She said that gaze accompanied her every night. Michael simply nodded. He couldn't respond. Anna cried, thanked him repeatedly, and hugged herself as if she were before something sacred. She paid, listened to the care instructions, and left the studio still emotional. Michael was left alone. He sat in the chair and stared at the void. He tried to rationalize everything: extreme fatigue, prolonged concentration. The scent could have come from outside. The heat, muscle tension, the movement, imagination. He needed to believe that. He opened his phone, looked at the final photo of the tattoo. The image was normal, beautiful, perfect, but normal. The eyes did not move. They did not look back. Still, he knew what he had seen. It was in that silence that the memories returned. His sister, Sarah, younger, smiling, full of life. He was 15 when she got sick. At first it seemed something simple. Then came tests, doctors, difficult words. Sarah was 11 when she died. For months, Michael prayed every night. He promised everything he could promise. He begged. When she left, he never prayed again. Sitting there, decades later, that pain returned with force. Not as a distant memory, but as something alive. Michael realized he had never stopped believing. He just had been afraid. Afraid to hope again, afraid to lose again. And now, after what he had seen, he didn't know how to escape from it anymore. Michael cried as he hadn't cried since adolescence. He cried for what he lost, for what he buried, for what he avoided feeling. And in that empty studio, not knowing how, he spoke in a low voice. It wasn't a prayer. It was a venting, a request without the right words. And in that moment, he understood that something had changed forever. After that day, Michael returned home different. His wife noticed at first glance. He was quieter, more distant, like someone carrying something heavy, and still didn't know how to put it into words. When she asked how the work had gone, he replied it had been normal. He didn't lie out of malice. He just couldn't explain. Some things don't have immediate language. In the following days, Michael returned to the studio. He attended to other clients, did other works. The sound of the machine remained the same. The inks were the same. His hands were the same. But the silence was now different. He found himself thinking about the gaze of that image, the scent he felt, the inexplicable heat. He thought and tried to push it away. He didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? 3 weeks later, on a Sunday morning, Michael told his wife he wanted to go to the cemetery. She was surprised. Throughout their marriage, he had never visited his sister's grave. She asked if he wanted company. Michael said no. He needed to go alone. And he did. He stood for a few minutes in front of the gravestone. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know where to start. So he sat on the grass and began to speak. He talked about the studio, about the tattoo, about the eyes, about the scent of roses, about the warmth in his hands. He said he didn't understand what had happened. He said he had been angry for a long time. He said he had been afraid to believe again. The wind rustled the trees. The silence responded. That night, Michael told everything to his wife. He spoke of his sister, the promises, the prayers he never made again. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she held his hand and said, "It didn't matter to explain what happened. What mattered was the effect. Something had been touched. Something had been healed." A month later, Michael's son came home from school, talking about a classmate's baptism. He asked if they could go. Michael hesitated for a moment, then he said yes. It was the first time in many years that he entered a church. He didn't pray. He didn't sing. He just stood there, watched, and realized he no longer felt anger. Months later, the studio remained the same. The building, the floor, the routine. Michael was working on a delicate portrait when he paused for a second and smiled. A small, almost imperceptible smile. He wouldn't know how to explain what had changed. The technique was the same. The talent was the same. But there was something more. Today, Michael no longer refuses religious images. He doesn't define himself as someone of faith, but he accepts that there are things he doesn't understand. And that is enough. The photo of that tattoo is still on his phone. Sometimes, late at night, he looks at those eyes and remembers. This testimony was recorded in the United States just once, among many I've heard over the years. If it touched you, write "eyes" in the comments. Every time I read that word, I know someone else understood. If you feel in your heart the desire to walk with us, become a member of the channel and join our prayer community dedicated to the Virgin Mary. And if this message has reached you this far, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Share this testimony with someone who needs to find hope today. Sometimes all a person needs is to know they are not alone, that there are still signs, that there are still eyes that see us when we think no one does. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.